Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is March the 17th, 2026. Hopefully this episode finds you well, in good spirits and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Hopefully you had a good one. Hopefully it treated you well. Hopefully you had a good St. Patrick's Day. You know, green beer and all that. If that's what you're into, of course. If that's what you celebrate. If not, that's all good. But no, I didn't do anything festive. I didn't do anything fun or cool. I barely wore green. I just woke up. I got myself together, nice and bundled up because it's still chilly out there. And I took my ass to work. And work was pretty good. I did come into a crusher that was almost full, so that slowed me down for about an hour and a half into my day. Then, Rumpke decided to show up. They took their sweet time, but they got it done. And then the rest of my day was pretty smooth sailing. After work, we go to the gym. Gym was very similar, beat for beat, to yesterday, so we don't really have to do a rundown there. But just know, W gym session. Got done with the gym. I got myself home to a stretch, to a snack, which I will say had a coffee and too much espresso in it. But, it helps balance me out. It helps get me through these long nights. But no. And then we did some research. So, pretty much all usual across the board. Pretty ho-hum Tuesday for your boy. But it was a good one. I appreciate having a nice, chill Tuesday without any drama, no conflict, no problems. At least not at home. We got a lot of conflicts to talk about this episode, of course. But let's go ahead and do our startup and let's get into some news. All right. First story is from Reuters. Kabul says Pakistan airstrike kills 408 at rehab center. Islamabad rejects claim. More than 400 people were killed in a Pakistan Air Force strike on a drug rehabilitation center in Kabul, the Afghan Taliban administration said on Tuesday, in the deadliest incident since the two neighbors began fighting late last year. Pakistan rejected the statement as false and misleading, saying it had precisely targeted military installations and terrorist support infrastructure on Monday night. Essentially saying, no, we didn't. There's no oops-a-daisy here. You guys are just telling the story wrong. It's misinformation. It's like, dude, there's bodies on the ground. It was a hospital. And they're like, no, we didn't hit a hospital. We hit this installation here, miles out. It's like, dude, no. And it's like, hey, this place used to be a NATO facility, but it's not anymore. And it's like, we've covered similar stories like this in conflicts where it's like, quite recently with America and our fucking Tomahawk missile in Iran. We hit a fucking school, and it's like, oh, well, maybe we thought that was a military base. But, oops, maybe, who can say sorry, maybe, it's very similar to that, unfortunately. Obviously, it's very grim. It's very unfortunate that this has continued to escalate from last year. I know we started talking about it then when it started happening, the back and forth. This isn't a situation where I'm rooting for any side or anything like that. But anytime you have a situation like this, there's no excuse for it. And to just say, once again, to not even come out with a statement acknowledging it, saying, no, we didn't do anything wrong. I think that's even more ghastly, but not surprising at this point for any nation state to do. This is a time immemorial thing, unfortunately. So yeah, that is what we're starting off with. A heavy hitter, as always. Let's move on. Talking about Iran, mentioning that now. From the Associated Press, Iran keeps up attacks on neighbors after Israel kills two of its top officials. Israel killed 2 senior Iranian security officials in a major blow to the Islamic Republic's leadership as it faces its greatest test in decades. And Iran responded Wednesday with renewed missile and drone attacks on its Gulf Arab neighbors and Israel. Ali Larijani, a secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, was considered one of the most powerful figures in the country since Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was killed in an airstrike on the first day of the war. General Gholam Reza Soleimani was the head of the Revolutionary Guard, all-volunteer Basij. Iran confirmed the killings of both men who were key to Iran's violent crackdown on protests in January that challenged the theocracy's 47-year rule. This was one of those things where I initially had heard the story and I was like, oh, well, I'm only hearing Israel saying that they did this. I haven't heard any kind of confirmation. I wasn't sure even how big of a news story this was or would be. And then, getting more context on it, like who these 2 men were, their roles, what is it? I want to say government, but in the theocracy, I guess I should say, whatever, you know what I'm trying to get at, was very vital, very crucial. So definitely worth talking about him. This was definitely a big hit. I feel like you can say it that way. Can I use mob rules here, or mob terms here? And there's more details here in terms of I believe Dubai getting hit and whatnot. That's kind of been an ongoing thing in terms of Iran retaliating by saying, "Hey, we are going to strike our neighbors. We you know what the score is here. That's not going to stop." So it's relevant, but that's not really what I want to get into the weeds about for this episode. So I really just wanted to highlight those 2 deaths, and then we're going to move on to our next story. From the BBC, Israel says limited ground operations underway in Lebanon. Israel's military says its troops have begun limited and targeted ground operations against the Iran-backed armed group Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. The military said operations had targeted key Hezbollah strongholds in recent days with the aim of strengthening the defense of the Israeli border communities. Israeli fighter jets have continued to strike towns and villages across southern Lebanon. State media said 9 people, including 3 paramedics, were killed on Monday. In Israel, 1 man was wounded in a Hezbollah rocket attack on a northern city of Nahariya, paramedics said. It's also worth noting with this ground invasion that I believe they are displacing about 10% of Lebanon. Just taking this area and saying, hey, it's hostile area. We are going to make sure that this shit is settled down. And until things do, we're taking it back. And I say taking it back because last year, or what was it, up until, we had that fucking ceasefire. Yeah. This was already something that Israel was doing. They quote unquote backed off, but we've talked about how that quote unquote ceasefire has been going in terms of them still killing people, still being very active. And essentially, this is just them saying, hey, we are just going completely hot again. We don't care. So that's obviously very unfortunate because that means that more people are going to be killed. Speaking of which, at least 886 people, including 111 children, have been killed in Israeli attacks in Lebanon since then. And 1 million others have been displaced, according to Lebanese authorities. And they add that 2 Israeli soldiers have been killed in southern Lebanon, according to the Israeli military. And I believe in the other article, too, they say that 14 Israeli, I don't know if it's soldiers or just Israelis in total have been killed. I know over 1,000 Iranians have been killed since the start of this conflict. And I believe 13 U.S., troops and staff. And that's not including any of the numbers from, once again, any of the other Middle Eastern countries that are getting involved in this, or, whether they want to or not, in terms of, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and obviously I'm missing some countries here in this list, Jordan, But yeah, it is just a rising death toll that is going to continue to keep going up. Because we said, hey, we're going hot here. We want to do this, Israel and the U.S. I mean, we can keep saying that, oh, we got dog walked into this. We got coerced and manipulated by Benjamin Netanyahu. It doesn't matter, though. We willingly said, okay, we'll do it. And here we are, just hip deep in some fucking shit here. But yeah, I felt like those 3 stories coming, well, I guess two of these stories are, Iran, Israel related, but, just overall, a lot of conflict, a lot of hot zones. But yeah, let's close out in good old America with, unfortunately, a shooting and a death. But yeah, let's go ahead and take our last break and we'll close it out there. Ooh. All right. From the Associated Press. Gunman killed and employee hospitalized after a shooting at a Georgia VA clinic, police say. There was a shooting Tuesday at a Department of Veterans Affairs clinic in a small town at the foot of the Blue Ridge Mountains in Georgia, and the gunman was shot and killed, police said. The Veterans Affairs employee was taken by helicopter to a hospital after the gunfire Tuesday afternoon. VA spokesman Peter Kasperowitz, I'm Mia culpa, I'm getting that wrong, said. Jasper police responded to the scene around 1:30 p.m. Tuesday. The city said in a statement outside the VA clinic, the officers confronted the gunman who was shot and killed, authorities said. The gunman was from the Jasper area. Jasper Police Chief Matt Dawkins told reporters at the scene, but details about him were not immediately released. We don't know what led up to it, Dawkins said. Jimmy Mooney was shopping at a nearby Goodwill store when he heard gunfire. We heard the gunshots going off, he said. There was probably 17 of us inside the Goodwill that was shopping, and they had come and told us to get in the back of the store, and during that time, we could see the officers running down the hill. Gunshots started going off. Jasper Police Chief said the Federal Bureau of Investigation will be investigating the shooting along with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. When asked about the subject's background, a Pickens County Sheriff spokesman said he did not know whether he had a military background. The clinic will remain closed for the rest of the week. Excuse me. So yes, obviously this is a very unfortunate situation. I will say good that we are only, I hate to say good. That feels morbid to say, but like, at least there wasn't someone, who was just doing their job, trying to just go about their day, who was fatally wounded. At least hopefully. But obviously unfortunate that the situation happened and that someone was killed, point blank, period. Obviously very unfortunate whenever we cover any of these kind of situations. I don't know. In terms of, once again, I don't want to over speculate because I don't know. I mean, you could say, well, 1 + 1 kind of equals 2 here. Why else would he be here in a Veterans Affairs clinic unless he, like obviously he has some kind of motivation that's there. But regardless, I don't want to speak out of turn. So I would rather wait and then get some more information, maybe try to come back to the story. But regardless, no matter what, it is just sadly another sad trend, part of a theme that just tends to keep happening over and over and over again in this country. And obviously it is a redundant thing. I don't want to belabor the point and get into blah, blah, blah and exposition, yada, yada, yada. It's not necessary. It's a Tuesday night for me. But anyway, that is really all I have for today. A bit of a shorter, sweeter episode. Well, not so sweet, but, a bit sad. So it goes. But we move. What can we do? But yeah, that is what I'll leave it for today. If you would like to help out, support the effort, I do have a Patreon. Patreon.com/Isaiah News. Become a newsie today. Free ways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Subscribe to the YouTube. Follow on TikTok. Follow on Spotify. Follow on Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to listen. Leave a like. Leave a cool comment. Sharing is caring. All those things are appreciated. What else is also appreciated? If you could on Apple or Spotify, or wherever they allow you to, leave as many stars as you can. Preferably, just max them things out. It's always appreciated. It's good for my algos. But if you don't do any of that stuff, that's okay. just thank you for letting me just, talk about my days, yap about the things in front of me or just around me, the news that's happening every day. I appreciate having the opportunity to be able to do this. And, that I'm not doing it alone. I'm not speaking to an empty room, so to speak. At least there's a few of y'all out there, and it's good that a good chunk of y'all are my friends. I always appreciate that. It's definitely, that makes it so it's like, good. This isn't some weird like parasocial freaky thing. You know what I mean? Y'all know who I'm talking to when I'm talking to y'all. So I really do love that part about it the most. And to people who are not necessarily my friends and you are just a casual listener or what have you, thank you. That's sweet. That's awesome. But yeah, that's it. That's all we have. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.